StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to transition from the sporting world to the business world. Before we get into this, I remind you of a couple things. First of all, my daily motivation and Monday motivation messages, guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your week. All you got to do to receive those is be part of my texting community, which is free to join. Send a text to the number 305-384-6894. And when we start sending those messages out again, everybody in the community will be getting them. You'll even be able to choose how often you like to hear from me in those messages. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That's the place where I do all my coaching. I'm looking for people who are top 2% performers. Either you are already there or you are planning to get there and you want to get there sooner rather than later. We focus on mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability, both for your personal and professional development. If you listen to this show, you got a pretty good feel of who I am, what I do, and what we're about. We've talked about a lot of different subjects here on the show. So don't think we're limited to any specific topic. We are not. We have people from all different walks of life, all different industries and different levels in our programs. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. You can read more about what we're doing and see if the next step makes sense for you. That link is down below in the description to this episode as well. With that out the way, let's get into the topic again today, which is how to transition from sports to business. Now, coming from the background that I come from, my background is in sports. I played basketball professionally for 9 years. And while I was doing that, I was putting content online. So a lot of people knew me from the online sporting world, if you want to, whatever you call that thing, I guess, influencing. But it was specifically through sports, at least when I first started, and then started talking about some of the things that I talk about now. And probably about 5 or 6 years into me just talking about sports. And that was what created the transition from having a sporting audience to a professional audience, or a business audience, let's say, or a business and entrepreneur, non-athlete, that is, because sports is a business and it's professional as well. But that's where that started. And I've been talking to this type of audience, like people like yourselves who are listening to this now, on these type of topics for about 15 years now. And coming from that background, there are many people who I'll come across and they are transitioning, from being an athlete, and they want to step into a professional world that is not based on playing a sport. And whether you're doing this as an entrepreneur, meaning you're going from being an athlete to being an entrepreneur, or you're doing it from being an athlete to maybe you're going to go work in corporate somewhere, maybe you want to get into some other professional role where you are generating a full-time income from something other than playing sports, but playing sports is what you used to do or what you have been doing. Today I want to talk about some foundational pieces that will help you make that transition successfully. Let's get into it. Point number one. Topic, once again, is how to transition from sports to business. Number one, establish your foundations. Take your time to invest in your education by reading and learning. This is your first step, reading and learning to help establish foundation. So whatever new profession you're stepping into, because every athlete, if you stop playing your sport, you go into something else. Even if you're going from playing to coaching, playing to training, playing to being an analyst, even if that's the transition that you're making, which might be the closest step between one and the other, you still had to deal with a learning curve because you are stepping into a new job. It's not the same as playing to be a coach. And just like everybody else who steps into that role, even if they didn't play like you did before they got into it, they still had to learn, and you have to learn. The only difference for you is that other people maybe went straight from schooling to their role, whereas you're going from playing to their role. Maybe you were playing in college. Maybe you were pursuing the professional life, didn't do it. Maybe you played professionally. But either way, you are stepping into a new job and a new role, which means there are new skills that you must develop. And another difference is you are used to the athletic demands of being an athlete. They are the demands of being an athlete are high level demands, but they don't require a ton of time. As far as an athlete goes, as far as the time investment that it takes to play a sport professionally, our time investment as athletes is lower than the time investment of damn near every other profession. And the reason for this is very practical in that there is only so much hard work you can put a physical body through over the course of a day before the body can't go any further. There's only so much hard work a body can be pushed through. So a long day for a professional athlete could be 4 to, let's say, maybe at the maximum, and this is on your best energy days, 6 hours of physical exertion. And that's assuming you're exerting yourself at full blast all day. That's probably 3 different workouts around 2 hours apiece. And again, that is still pretty rare. 2 workouts a day is not a extremely rare thing. That's a normal thing for a pro athlete. But 3 workouts a day, if you're going your absolute hardest, you probably can't even push those more than an hour. And I've talked to trainers who have actually told me this, that there was a trainer who told me years ago, he said research was done that the hardest, if an athlete's going their full speed, sprint speed during a workout, that they can go about 45 minutes before they can't go anymore. Now, you can have a 2 or 3 hour workout, but you can't go your full speed the entire 3 hours. That's the point that I'm making. And in the business world, let's say like what I'm doing now, if I was just to sit here and be on my computer or sit here and record, I can do this for 10 hours a day. All right? I'm not fully exerting myself physically to the point that I would run out of energy like I would if I was on a basketball court practicing. Couldn't do that for 10 hours a day. So the athletic demands are high in terms of performance, but the time level is not the same as any other job. In the professional world, you're going to put in, the non-sport world that is, you're going to put in more hours working than you ever did playing a sport. And that's not even debatable. There's nobody who's ever refuted that because it can't be refuted. So you must build up, athlete who is transitioning. You got to build up the discipline to do the work in the professional space the same way that you built up the discipline to do work in the athletic space. It's a different type of work, but it is still work. And all work, especially at the professional level, especially if you expect to be consistent in your outputs, requires discipline, which means you have to do things that you don't always feel like doing. First one is building your foundation through educating yourself. Educating yourself simply means same stuff you did when you were trying to learn to play a sport. Maybe you had to talk to people, maybe you watched some game film, maybe you studied some things, maybe you went to practice all the time. You probably did a combination of all of that stuff. Well, if you're stepping into a new career, guess what? You got to study. Ask anyone you know who is a high performing professional at what they do. I'm saying people who don't play sports. Ask them if there was a learning curve when they were getting into their game, or if there's still a learning curve in the game, even as they're in it right now. And the answer is going to be, of course, there is. So you got to be self-educating, athlete, because your education did not end when you finished school or as far as in school as you went. This means you need to be reading books, taking courses, gathering knowledge, and getting insights from people who know things that you simply don't know. And you have to do this all on your own volition. All right, high-level performers do this as a habit. High-level performers are always reading, they're always learning, they're taking courses, they're getting new continuing education, as we said, to continue learning about the game that they're in, no matter how successful they are, how long they've been in the game, how much better they are than their competition. They are always continually getting better, learning, and basically making themselves sharper. You need to be doing this from the very beginning when you know that you're going to be transitioning from one space to another. And the more learning you do before you get into it, the easier it will be once you hit the ground. And you hit the ground, ideally, you want to hit the ground running. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to transition from the athlete to the entrepreneur, or from the athlete to the business world, sport to business. Number 2, connect and engage. Connecting and engaging means talking to others who are already doing what you want to do. These are people who are already in the specific space in which you want to get. So you want to become a lawyer, go connect and engage with people who are already full-time lawyers. You want to be in government, do the same thing with someone in government. You want to be an entrepreneur, do the same thing with someone who's an entrepreneur. Join these people's masterminds if they have them. Join their coaching programs if those are available. Doing this, which is a part of building your relationships, is your fast track to success. All right, remember that you can get more done with and through other human beings than you'll ever get done with and through your own individual efforts. And that is regardless of how good you are individually or how hard you are willing to work, simply because you're only one person. And being that you're only one person, you only have one brain, which means your insights and your information is limited to just what you know and how you see things. Whereas other human beings may know things that you don't know, they know people you don't know, and they see things that you don't see. Also, as a human, your limitation is that you can only be in one place at a time. So if you had other people working on your behalf, or other people at least putting in a good word for you, they can be putting in a good word for you in Atlanta and LA while you are in Miami or Philadelphia. So this is another reason why you want to build relationships. This is the fast track to success. The fastest way to achieve any success in life is through connecting with other people and leveraging their resources so that you are not limited to just your resources. Let me say that sentence one more time because this applies to every one of you, no matter what you do in what you're doing in life. The fastest way to achieve success in any aspect of life is to connect with other people and leverage their resources so you are not limited to only the resources of yourself. You will achieve more and go further through connections to other humans than you can ever do off your own efforts, again, regardless of your level of intelligence, effort, or power. Because if you are really intelligent, you are a really hard worker, and you're a really powerful person, if you were to leverage the tools of other people in addition to your own, well, that can only make you better. There's no way that leveraging the resources of other people can make you worse. It is impossible. So this is why you should always be looking to connect with other people who are playing the game at a high level, because it can only help you if you understand this whole concept of synergy. Whole concept of synergy, if I was to put it into a simple equation, to paint the picture, is 1 + 1 = 3. Now, one person by themselves is one person, another person by themselves is one person, but the two of them who come together, you have the two of them, and then you have the synergistic energy between the two of them creates a third person. That's what 1 + 1 = 3 actually means. And Napoleon Hill talked about this in his book, Think and Grow Rich. He talked about the concept of the mastermind. Mastermind is simply the additional entity that is created when multiple other entities come together to work in a spirit of perfect harmony. So when two people come together, you got one person, you got the other person, and then you have the third person that is the energy between the two of them. The synergy between the two of them is another entity within itself. Same way that if you start a business and you get an LLC, or you make it a C corp, or it's a corporation setup, whatever it is, the business itself is an entity. Any of you who have an LLC, that LLC is an entity itself. It has its own employee identification number that you can use in place of a social security number. If someone wanted to sue your business, they would be suing the business, not suing you. It is its own entity. It exists in and of itself, which means you can sell it, you can pass it on to somebody else, and it is not connected to your personal identity, or at least it doesn't need to be. The same way that that LLC is its own entity, a mastermind is its own entity when you have the right relationships with the right type of people. So this is how you move forward quickly in a professional world. Ask anyone who is successful and who has made tangible strides and advancements in their careers. They will co-sign this point that I just gave you. You could even just play this part for them and ask them, hey, is that true what this guy is saying, that connecting with other people is the fast track to being more successful, especially someone who works in the professional space, like let's say the corporate space or government space or the academic space, which are three places that are highly bureaucratic and highly political. And in these places, the number one thing that moves you forward is the right relationships, the right connections to the right people. It is not how good you are. It is not how hard you work. It is not how smart you are. Even though, again, it is always beneficial to be good, hardworking, and smart. Those things alone will not get you as far as knowing the right people and having favorable relations with those right people. That will move you forward faster than hard work. And many people have been indoctrinated and fooled into believing that just effort and intelligence and positive intentions are enough. In life, that is never enough. Have those, but again, combine it with these other things that I'm telling you about. So again, I don't care if we're talking, if you're a sports coach, what's the fastest way to move forward in sports coaching? Coaching at one level, you want to move up, or you're an assistant, you want to move up to a higher assistant role, or from assistant to the head coach. What's the fastest way to move up? The right connections, the right people. You're working in government. What's the fastest way to move up? The right connections and the right people. If you're an entrepreneur, you're a middle manager, what's the fastest way to move up? The right connections and the right people, the right relationships with the people who have the power to help move you forward. Most important thing you can do in any profession is to build and leverage relationships. Have I said that often enough? Does everybody understand my point? Get good at this and you will see how relationships supersede ability. Any of you who's good at this already, any of you who has already leveraged these things in any way in your professional career, you are nodding your head right now because you understand. Relationships supersede ability. Get good at this and you will see how true it is. So any of you out there who's been working really hard, working on your game, getting better, getting smarter, putting the effort in, you're doing all that stuff and you're making progress, I guarantee you will make much more progress and you'll start multiplying your results rather than simply adding results by leveraging relationships. Because again, relationships through other people will open up avenues that simply would never be open to you just through sheer effort and intelligence. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to transition from the sports world to the business world. Number 3, Start implementing. Implementation. You must start, even on a small scale, doing stuff now. Whatever it is you're going to get into, start doing the stuff now. Simple way to start doing the stuff is to intern. You can be an intern. Intern simply means you are a temporary staff member somewhere working to learn the ropes of the business or the industry in which you want to get involved, maybe sometime in the future. Maybe you want to get involved right now, but you may start out as an intern just so you can get a feel for what it's really like, how you can see how the game really is. If you happen to know someone, you have a really good relationship with them, you could ask them if you could shadow them for a day. Hey, can I just follow you around for a day or for a week just to watch what you do, see what you're doing, and really get a feel for what a day in the life is like if I was to become someone who's working in the same role as what you're working in. These are ways that you can actually start getting your feet wet. You're going to be an entrepreneur. You can start putting your stuff out there and selling it to an audience. I mean, you don't have to wait for anything. For that, the whole point is you have to just get started. All right, just get started. This point is the exact reason why, again, internships exist. It's a good way for someone who's not quite ready to be full-fledged for whatever reason. You get some experience, get your feet wet, doing the job, and you find out what it's really like. And now you might decide, you know what, maybe this job isn't for me. Or you know what, maybe this job is even better than I thought it was. I really want to get into this. Now, here's the other thing. You may not have an official internship. As a professional myself, I never had an official internship in terms of the things that I do these days. I never interned anywhere with anybody. But you can create your own internship by just doing what I told you on points number 1 and number 2. You do everything I told you, number 1 and number 2, you are basically creating an internship that is just yours, just a proprietary internship. Just by doing those 2 things, you'll get some ideas, maybe even some suggestions about things you can do right now to start learning about the job before you even have the job, learning about the industry before you get into the industry, learning about how things go before you are responsible for doing it. And again, you could decide the job's not right for you. Maybe it's a perfect fit for you once you see what it really takes. Either way, you're not going to really have any real information about anything you want to get into until you start implementing and putting these things to good use. And the sooner you do that, the sooner you have activity knowledge to know I'm going to move forward or I'm not, or I'm going to pivot, or I'm going to do something different. But again, until you do things, you don't really know things. You don't know something until you've actually done it. You don't really know it until you can teach it. That said, let's recap today's class, which is how to transition from sports life to the business life, the non-sport business life. Point number 1, foundations. Take time to read and learn. Learn about the game or games in which you want to get involved in your future, or maybe you want to get involved in right now. You should always be learning, always investing in yourself, and putting the time into getting the knowledge, gathering that knowledge, which you shouldn't do forever, but you should gather some knowledge, will help lay a mental foundation for you about what you're stepping into. Point number 2, connect and engage. Connect with people who are already in the game, build relationships with them, leverage those relationships, and maintain them. You will get more done and advance yourself further and faster through relationships than you will ever do through effort, intelligence, and positive intentions. You need a whole lot more than that to move yourself forward in life, especially if you are in highly bureaucratic or highly political spaces, such as the corporate world, such as government, such as academia. You better be leveraging relationships there because that's the only way you will ever move up. And point number 3, implementation. Start even on a small scale doing stuff now. You just start doing the small stuff now. It can at least help you get some activity knowledge so that you know what it's like, you know how it feels, and you got a good idea how the game goes. As I told you in the intro to this episode, when I was putting content out there online and I started talking about mindset pieces in the sports world, and people who didn't play sports started telling me that stuff was useful for them as well, I started implementing, as I'm telling you here, and doing entrepreneurial things. Even while my full-time thing was playing basketball, I was doing these entrepreneurial things on the side because, as I told you, athletes have a lot of time on our hands. So by the time I stopped playing basketball completely and I was ready to become a full-time entrepreneur, I already had many years of doing a lot of entrepreneurial things. I was already writing books, building a list, had courses. I was already doing a lot of things that I would have had to do from day one had I started the day that I stopped playing sports. Since I already had been doing it, I already had been implementing, I was already just ready. I was ready to hit the ground running. All I was doing was freeing up some more time because I eliminated basketball from my daily schedule. The point being, implementation is what helped me get the knowledge that I have. I have the wisdom and knowledge that I have about business today because of the implementation that I did 15 years ago and more on different things that I was doing business-wise while I wasn't even a full-time business owner. So that said, folks, Make sure you text me so you're in my community. My number's down below in the description. Also, workonyourgameuniversity.com. Those of you who are ready to take the next step in your business, I'm talking not even the next step, but the next 10 steps in your business and in your career. You want to do that now, not later. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, where you can have me as your direct coach. We have a page there where you can schedule time to get on a call with us. And you're looking to perform at your highest level, do so consistently, and make more money in your business. That's the right place to go. Workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all